Okay, the last video got cut off and I was trying to tell you guys to work on the handout. And if you're in my class, I passed the handout in class, but if you're in my online class, there's a handout located in Course Tool, go to Document Sharing, and then click on the handouts for P.5 video. And so if you've done this handout, you can go ahead and continue on with this video. If you haven't done the handout yet, go ahead and pause this video and come back to it as soon as you get done with the handout. Okay, so now I had y'all work on that handout for a couple reasons. One is that we're going to go ahead and start factoring by the AC method. And in order to understand the AC method, you need to understand a technique or a pattern or a rule that is demonstrated in these problems on top of this page here. So I had y'all look at these X's and they had numbers arranged, and I wanted y'all to see if you understood the pattern or the rule for these numbers. So the first one, I hope you saw in the first one that you saw that the 2 and the 3 multiply to give you the 6, and they add up to give you the 5, and that's the rule. And that's the rule that's going to be applied to all the other x's in this row. So again, the negative 2 times the negative 5 multiply to give me 10, but add up to give me negative 7. Okay. The negative 3 times 7 gives me negative 21, and negative 3 plus 7 gives me 4. And then the last one, negative 8 times 3 gives me 24. And add to give me negative 5. So the rule is they need to, the two numbers multiply to get top number and add up to the bottom number. So I want you to try this and see if you could come up with these numbers on your own. And so if you got them, great, and we can check your answers. If there are a couple that you didn't get, well, I'll go over the technique of how I figure them out, because there's some of them that I can't figure out right away. Okay? So for the first one, I have 18 on top and I have negative 11 on the bottom. So what I usually do is no matter what numbers I have, I always look at the top number and I look at the factors of that number. So for 18, the numbers that multiply to give me 18, or the number pairs, are 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, and there's no other two pair factors of 18. Then I look at these pairs and I go, one of these pairs should give me 11 or negative 11, and the only one that would work would probably be the 2 and the 9. So I'm going to go ahead and cross the other ones out. So now I got to figure out these two numbers need to add up to the negative 11. They need to add up to that. The only way that it would add up to negative 11 is to make the 2 negative and the 9 negative. I'm going to go ahead and erase off the other stuff I'm not going to use. Okay. So the negative 2 plus negative 9 does give me negative 11. And does it multiply to give me 18? Yes. Okay, so that looks like that's correct. The next one I'm going to look at the pairs of 1 and 15, 3 and 5, and there's no other pairs. And looking at them needing to add up to eventually negative 2, I'm going to go ahead and erase the 1 and 15 because I don't think that's going to work. Okay. Now the only way these two will add up to negative 2 is if the 5 were negative. Okay. Now you always got to make sure that not only does it add up to the negative 2, but it better multiply to give me negative 15. And 3 times negative 5 does give me negative 15. Okay, and the next one I have 12, negative 12 on top, so I have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and that's it. And it looks like the only pair that I could use would probably be the 2 and the 6. I'm going to erase these other ones. Okay. The only way these two numbers will add up to 4 is if I make the 2 negative. And negative 2 times 6 does give me negative 12. So that would be the pair right there. Hope you got all those right, and if you didn't get them, do you understand how I got those pairs and those numbers to work? If not, please let me know, and I can try to work them more, give some more practice problems via email. Okay, the next one I have 24 and 10. So the pairs that give me 24 are 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, and those are all the two pair factors of 24. Now, here's the interesting problem, because I know I can erase the 1 and 24, because that will no way ever give me the 10 I need. 2 and 12 might work, because 2 and 12 I could get a 10 possibly. The 3 and 8 I can erase, because 3 and 8 will never add 10 no matter what I do with the signs. And 4 and 6 also can give me 10. So I actually have two possibilities here, and we're going to have to find the only one possibility. So we're going to look at this carefully. And if I use the 2 and the 12, the only way that will add up to 10 is if I make the 2 negative. Okay? But does negative 2 times 12, does that give me 24 when I multiply them together? No. It gives me a negative 24. It does add up to the negative, it does add up to the positive 10, but it doesn't multiply to give me negative 24. So I'm actually going to omit that possibility, and I'm going to cross it out. So I'm going to use the 4 and 6. Well, 4 and 6 automatically add up to 10. So 4 plus 6 is 10. And 4 times 6 gives me 24. It looks like 4 and 6 are the numbers I want to use. Okay. Next one I have negative 18 on top and negative 17 on the bottom. So the pairs of numbers that give me 18 are 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Okay. And this is the one pair that I'm going to have to actually use the 1 and 18, because that's the only way I'm going to get 17 or negative 17 from there. So I'm going to go ahead and erase the rest of them. My eraser here, and I'm going to use 1 and 18. The only way that will ever add to negative 17 is to make the 18 negative. Okay. So does these two numbers, when I add them together, do they give me negative 17? Yes. And when I multiply them, does it give me negative 18? And the answer is yes. Okay, the last one here, 216 on top and negative 30 on the bottom. This is a great problem where I tell students I don't see it right away. This is really important. I'm going to make this a lot bigger. Really important to go ahead and know all the two pair factors of 216. I don't know them. So I pull my calculator out and I just do 216 divided by 1, and I get that one I can do in my head. So I get 1 and 216. I take 216 divided by 2, so 2 times 108. 216 divided by 3, so I get 3 times 72, and you keep on going. And you'll know when to stop, because you'll start in a circle, and I'll show you in just a second what I mean by that. So 4 and 54, 5 doesn't work, 6 and 36, and here I'm going to illustrate something. A lot of times students will say, that might be the pair that I'm going to use. Okay, and I'm doing it for a reason. So I'm going to go ahead and say, well, I'm going to try 6 and 36. Well, the only way those two numbers will ever add up to negative 30 is if I make the 36 negative. But now look at this carefully. Does 6 times negative 36 equal 216? Does it do that? And the answer is no. So while the 6 plus the negative 36 equals negative 30, it doesn't give me the 216. So what that tells me is I don't need to quit just yet. I shouldn't quit yet. So I'm going to keep on going. So I already know that one's going to fail. And all these aren't going to work. There's no way they're going to give me 30 or negative 30. So I keep on going. 7 doesn't work. 8 and 27. 9 and 24, 10 won't work, 11 won't work, we have 12 and 18, 13 won't work, 14 won't work, 15 won't work, 16 won't work, 17 won't work, and then I hit 18, and I get 18 times 12. And this is why I know I can stop, because I already have 12 times 18, 18 times 12, the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that one, and I can stop. Now I look at this list and I go, okay, I want it to add up to negative 30. I don't think these two numbers will do that. These two numbers won't, and I'm going to try the 12 and 18. 12 and 18, how do I make them add up to negative 30? Make them both negative. Okay, so negative 12 plus negative 18 equals, make it a little bit smaller. So negative 12 plus negative 18 equals negative 30. It is negative 12 times negative 18 equal to 16. Yes and yes. So actually the pair I'm going to use is negative 12 and negative 18. So I'm going to erase all this. I get negative 12 and negative 18. That's a problem where if you are persevering, you won't. You'll find the answer. If you quit and don't see it right away, then you won't find the answer to that problem. Okay, turn the page over, and we looked at these. And I said, "What about these problems?" And so I'm going to go ahead and look at this and do the same way I did on the other side. 48. 1 times 48. 2 times 24. 3 times 16. 4 times 12. 5 won't work, 6 times 8, 7 won't work, and then I go to 8 times 6. Okay, so look at all these pairs, and I'm going to look at which combination can somehow add to 13. That won't work. That won't work. This one might. So, let me go ahead and look at that one in a second. And these won't work, and these won't work. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to use 3 and 16 somehow to get me 13. Let me go ahead and write the other ones. I don't have a lot to look at in terms of numbers. Okay, let me make these a little bit larger. So 3 and 16. The only way those will ever add up to 13 is to make the 3 negative. Okay, so now I get negative 3 plus 16 does equal 13. Does negative 3 times 16 equal 48? And the answer is no. So this is actually one that doesn't work. There's nothing that you can put here. So you just say nothing works. Because there's no way to make the 13 or the 3 and 16 add to 13 and still give you positive 48. You can only have one or the other. Okay, and then the last one I have 36, so 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6, and that's it, right? So I look at all the pairs, and I'm wanting to get 11 or negative 11. I don't see that one working. That one won't work. No, and no, and then nothing will do that. This one also doesn't work. So let's just take some notes on what we just figured out. And so we know that we're looking for two numbers that multiply to give you the top number right here, and two numbers, the same two numbers. Make that clear. The same two numbers add up to bottom number. Note that in the last two that we looked at, sometimes this is not possible. But I want you to be very careful and make sure that you really know that's not possible. You tested every two pair factor. Okay. So what I mean by that is if you want to make sure that you tested every two pair factor. If we'd gone back to this problem right here, and remember how we tried one of them early on and it didn't work? If we'd quit right then and there, then we would never have seen the negative 12 and the negative 18. So just keep in mind that you don't want to quit. You want to go through every two pair and exhaust all your possibilities. Okay, go on and watch part 3 of the video.